Didn't anticipate it. I didn't anticipate that they were going to change my life. I just thought I was going to get some free honey out of the deal. But they're such fascinating creatures, it's hard not to become obsessed with them. You see this all the time, people being obsessed with bees. Yeah, I was totally obsessed with them for about a decade. Then I eventually kind of got to an even keel. They kind of lived in my yard. I harvested honey. We kind of had a, a stable relationship where I wasn't learning that much more. And then the varroa killed them all off, and then I kind of started the whole obsession all over again, trying to figure out what to do about the fact that all my bees were dying. And so I got more and more colonies trying to come up with, you come up with all these experiments. The thing about beekeeping is it takes you a year to pull off any experiment, really, because it takes at least a year just to get through one whole cycle of everything. So you think, oh, I'm going to try this. But if I only try one thing in 1 year, it takes me 40 years to do 40 experiments. If I do 10 at once, well, I could do more, but I can't do that without a lot more hives. And so I kept getting more and more hives, and it kept growing, and I don't know, got out of control, but that's how I got into beekeeping. I don't think you ever get to the end of it. The bees are so complicated. Just when you think you have them all figured out, they throw you a loop, and you go, whoa, why did they do that? Yeah, and you try to figure that out, and trying to understand and predict what they're going to do and use that to your advantage. Again, like I said, almost any experiment takes you a whole year. So in 40 years, you feel like you've barely scratched the surface. I've got more questions than I did at the beginning. But I've got more answers too, but I still got more questions, because every time you get an answer, it brings up more questions. So I think it's, most hobbies, you kind of reach the point where, okay, I've mastered this, I'll move on, do something else. But I don't think you ever quite master it, because you have the surprises the bees throw you, and then the weather throws you, and then you never know how the season or the climate or whatever is affecting what's going on. So you're constantly adjusting and learning. Bees are so complicated. They're, people like to think they're just these little automatons and they're all going to do the same thing, but you put bees in this colony and bees in this colony and treat them exactly the same, and you get different outcomes. Why? Well, that's a mystery, so you try to figure that out. How can I get the same outcome in this other one that I got in this one? Why are they different? If they were all the same, then you get the same result consistently, but you don't get the same result consistently. So a lot of beekeeping becomes an art, not a science, because it's that complicated thing of, well, how strong are they before I do this? How many bees would I need to make this successful? And the answer isn't all really specific. It depends on too many things. What time of year it is, where are they in their buildup of this? They're building up in the spring, and then they're kind of dropping off in the summer, and then they wind down for the winter. And how successful this is depends on so many things. So you look at it, you go, well, I don't think the nights are going to be that chilly. Maybe it'd be all right to do this right now, and maybe you're right, and maybe you're wrong. But there's a lot of art to those kind of decisions, and not science. It's more a question of, well, this colony just isn't building up fast enough, so I don't think it's a good idea to split them and try and make another colony out of them. But this one is just exploding, and I think they're going to swarm. Well, how do I learn the difference? Well, you kind of watch them, and you kind of get a feel for it. So it's more art than science. It's difficult to say in a book and explain a specific rule to say, well, this one you shouldn't split, and this one you should split. Mm-hmm. So as you learn, you get better at those kind of decisions. You get better at looking at a hive and saying, I think those guys are about to swarm, I need to do something. Or those guys are having trouble, I need to help them. I don't know, I kind of had a grasp of it, I just didn't have as good a grasp of it. But I think you got to learn to trust the bees. Trust that the bees know what they're doing rather than I know what I'm doing. Because they know a lot more about being bees than I know about being a beekeeper. And they always will. So I need to learn from the bees. But it's one of those lessons that not as well understood back then as it is now. If I could understand it as well as I do now then, I would have been a lot better off probably. I would have learned a lot more, a lot faster, if I was more focused on learning from the bees. It's kind of tough. tough. My advice to new beekeepers is usually you need to get in the hive often or you won't learn anything, but it's not necessarily helping the bees. But how are you going to learn anything if you don't get in there and see what's going on? So you're probably going to get in there more often than you should from the bees' benefit, but it's going to benefit you. Hopefully in the long run that'll benefit the bees because you'll be a better beekeeper, but it's tough. I mean, you shouldn't be in there every day. You probably should at least get in there every 2 weeks, but probably more often is a good plan, just like once a week maybe, just so you can see what's happening, because otherwise you'll miss it.
A healthy brood pattern covers a near solid patch on the comb. Capped cells will have a slightly convex, domed appearance. If you find comb with a spotty brood pattern and you see perforated or sunken capped cells,
boy, it's kind of hard to beat sourwood. Tupelo's pretty good. Eucalyptus is nice. I don't know, tough choice. I like all of those, but probably sourwood if I was just picking one.
Okay. Thanks
Don't
a
have
lot.
much of that here.
Never tasted it.
Don't have it in Nebraska either. I have to buy it from like North Carolina. But
I have tasted Tupelo when I was visiting the States.
Tupelo is very nice. It's not strong, but it's pleasant. Sourwood's a little stronger, but it's got a little bite to it, a little twang to it, but a very nice smooth finish that's pleasant. I like strong honey as long as it doesn't have a bad finish. If it's got a really harsh finish, then it's not so good. But strong is nice as long as it ends nice.